We are live.
Oh, this looks so cool. I love it. This looks like the kingdoms. Indeed, it does.
All right. Oh,
Cheers.
cheers.
Welcome to California.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Lord. Well, let's jump right in.
Yes.
We're talking about fear. We're talking about faith.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about it. We're driving on the way over here after you picked me up from the airport.
Yes.
And you had that download of fear and faith.
Yes, because I feel like in life there's so many forks in the road, and there's two choices. You can either take the fear-based road or the faith-based road, and so my life is a culmination of taking the faith-based road. But in my advocacy work, what I've noticed is that most people have a fear-based mode, and then also every single system in place, education, healthcare, luxury, everything it's all like scarcity and fear. Everything is it's like I've noticed that particularly in like the family court system and the civil court system, like mediators, for example. A mediator's job is to get a person to take a settlement in a case as opposed to going to trial. So in order to achieve their objective, they have to instill fear in the plaintiff. Otherwise otherwise the mediator has failed. Because only 7% of cases go to trial, and the court system is so bogged down that they can. It's impossible to for every single person to go to actual trial. So then, if you say, if like for example, in my case, like I never settle. I always want to go all the way. Race the whole marathon and complete it. But in most cases, what they'll do is most people want to settle. And then another thing that they do is like a 998 offer, which it will be a formal settlement agreement. It's an offer. And if you say no, then, and then you lose in court, then you're responsible for the other party's legal fees. So most people, when they hear 998 offer and then they hear that part about the legal fees, they're like, oh my God. And I'm like, what are you worried about? Wow. So, and then it's so funny to me because it's like, for example, why would I be filing a lawsuit if there was a possibility of me losing? I'm not going to waste my time of filing a complaint, retaining attorneys, and then being afraid of of the outcome. It's already a solid case right from the jump. And then in my advocacy work, like, I mean, the positive self-talk is like everything. Like, people, this one woman I advocate for example, like she had court a few weeks ago, and I've been telling her for 3 years, literally, like, okay, it's never if, it's always when. It's never if I win, it's always when I win. But then the morning of court, which was September 2nd, she was like, Kelly, last night I kept I dreaming about him winning and then laughing, and I was like, oh gosh, that's a bad sign. I was like, that's not good. And I was like, that's because she manifested that. She lost in court. And so she
ended up losing.
She lost, yeah.
Oh my.
And goodness. What you envision is what happens, So for me, like, there's only one option on the list. It's always victory. And so that requires full faith, right?
Wow.
And full faith requires full surrender and fully trusting God. And most people, they say they trust God, but then when it comes to real life experiences, in the moment, they'll be afraid. Well, wait, I thought you trust God, though.
Let's talk about that.
I thought you trust God, right? Uh-huh.
Let's talk about that, because you're so right. When push comes to shove, is when people switch up.
Exactly.
Like, talk is cheap.
Yeah, it sure is.
But when the rubber hits the road,
exactly.
Do you really trust him?
Yeah. One of my favorite metaphors that I like to reference when I'm explaining this very basic concept of faith versus fear is if God were to lock you in a box and he takes the key and he locks it, and you want to get out of the box. You've got two options: you can have faith or you can have fear. With faith, you're going to have a regulated nervous system, and you're going to find a way to get out of the box. But if you have fear, you're going to have a panic attack, or you're going to hyperventilate, and you're going to suffocate and die in the box. So it's like you can have some fear, but you have to have more faith in order to achieve your goal, and whatever it may be. And in my life, that there's been multiple very precarious scenarios and situations, such as when I got pregnant with Zoe, and the most horrible circumstances you can imagine. But and everyone's like, have an abortion. I was like, I'm not going to have an abortion. This baby's a gift from God. I don't care about the circumstances. And I, of course, there was a little bit of fear because, all the judgment and this, that, but like, I don't care about what the Matrix thinks of me. But ultimately I was like, no, this baby's a gift from God. I understand that this, the baby's out of wedlock, oh no. And that, the dad is black and he's a criminal. But it's like, why is it that, if I had been married and the dad had been white, they wouldn't have been pushing an abortion. So why is it that if it's a single, an unmarried woman, why is the baby suddenly should be aborted? That doesn't make sense.
Because people care about optics.
Exactly.
Way too much.
Exactly.
Way too
exactly.
much. I've learned that. Oh
yes, exactly. How it looks. So for me, it was like I took the leap of faith, and I mean, the second I gave birth to Zoe, I mean, my whole world flipped. It was like, oh, this is what it's all about, and she's been the greatest blessing of my life. And I thank God every single day that I did not give in to other people's fears, because I mean, almost everyone was telling me to have an abortion. Like there was one girl who even scheduled an appointment for me. She wasn't even my friend, obviously.
That's
at
wild.
Planned Parenthood in like Bakersfield or something. Of course, I no-showed. But it was like the amount of pressure was literally insane.
Wow.
But I just ignored it. And one of the things I've learned in my life, I'm 43. It took me a while to learn this, is to not take advice from unqualified people. So if this is someone who's like, if let's say, for example, you're having an issue with your boyfriend, and one of your girlfriends is offering unsolicited advice. Well, does she have a boyfriend does she have the type of relationship that you aspire to? Is there any example of a positive relationship in her life? If the answer is no, then she's not qualified. So,
That's true.
I mean, that period, right? So for me, it's like, if I want advice about business, there's my mom. I go to my mom for business advice. If I need relationship advice, I'm not going to go to my mom. I'm like, she's not the person, She's the reverse inspiration when it comes to relationships. But when it comes to business, she's the one. But really being able to discern whose opinion matters is important, because so often, as in the case with the encouragement to have an abortion, people are giving advice through the filter of their own wounds and their own fears.
Yes. Big time.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Big time.
Yeah. And then therefore their fear is basically polluting their advice.
Yes.
And then that fear, the energy feeds and then transfers over, and then suddenly, it's like when you're around certain people and the energy it's the anxious, icky energy. It's like, that's all the same stuff. The fear. Anxiety and fear are the same thing.
100%.
It's like, yeah. I don't
100%.
understand how people don't realize that anxiety is a demon. Like,
let's talk about that.
yeah.
No, because so the word demonized literally means to be under the power of a demon. I've suffered from anxiety in my past, and I know 1,000,000% it was a demonic spirit.
Oh, for sure.
Because it would be so crippling.
Yeah, it's debilitating.
100%. 100%. I remember somebody had to like somebody close to me. There was like a spiritual mother of mine. She passed away. She passed away when the morning that she had passed and I heard the news, I went and I sat by the lake. And I was going through all of this crazy stuff in my business and personal life and stuff. And I was under the weight of it all. And I remember sitting there and I thought about the life of Nancy, who was the lady that passed away, and just how at peace she was right before she left, because I know she was going home to be with the Lord.
She's like, finally.
Yeah. And in that moment, Kelly, like a supernatural mist just fell on top of my head, and I have not suffered from anxieties.
That's
since.
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah. It was quite something. It was like that revelation of like, what am I worried about? When somebody's on their way out
Yeah.
and they're so at peace, happy, full of joy.
Yeah, it's like the life cycle, the completeness of it all.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, it was just something clicked.
Yeah.
Something clicked. And
Yeah.
I never had
Yeah, that makes complete sense. I mean, when you think about like what anxiety does, like you know, it's crippling as we know, but like a woman I advocate for, same person who lost in court. A couple weeks ago, she wanted my help. Style. She's a stylist, so like with one of her clients, and so I was like, okay, sure. So, but before she slept over for the weekend because her daughter was with her dad that weekend. They have joint custody, and she's like needs to get in the shower. We had to be there at 9 a.m. in Lagoon Beach, which is a 30-minute drive. And she starts like freaking out. And like, I've never been with her in this context. I've advocated for her, but I've never like worked with her on anything. Like she'll come and pull from my styling vault, but like, I've never actually like gone to a client with her. And so I've never like seen her like this. I see her anxious in all these other scenarios, but this is first in a work situation.
Right.
And I had to like force her to get in the shower. I'm like, you need to get in the shower. If you don't get in the shower, like you're not going to get there on time. Like get in. I had to force her to get in. And then in the shower, she's like freaking out and just like, I'm just worried if it doesn't go well and this and that and that. And I was like, hey, this is like really unhealthy. It was stressing me out. I was like, if you create dead ends, like in every single scenario. So therefore things go exactly how you imagine them because you destroy them before it even starts,
Wow.
And so that type of dead end thinking is obviously a demon because it's also like a hamster wheel from hell, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So oftentimes like the solution, it's confrontation. It's so funny because you mentioned this before we started the pod and just now, how like you almost kind of have to get in the face of that spirit.
Yes.
And confront it.
Yes.
And say like, whoa, no, we're not doing that.
Exactly.
We're not doing that.
Yeah.
And I believe in those moments with that confrontation, that spirit has to bow to the name of Jesus.
100%. Yeah. So what ended up happening that day, it was really kind of sad, is like she like really mistreated me and Zoe. That day Zoe wanted to come too, and it was like, so I rearranged her homeschooling day and all that stuff. And then it was so weird. The whole day was really weird. But of course I confronted her about it, right? This is my voice. I'm not going to be like, okay, so Joshua, I really didn't like how you, like, this is, hello. Hi, Joshua. So I just expressed, how I felt about the way that she handled business that day, which was extremely unprofessional. And of course she didn't like that. So if she was 100% in the wrong, I don't condemn people. Like, I want her to grow. Also, I'm not her friend, I'm her advocate. And so it's a completely different it's an assignment, right? Yeah. So she wants, me to like coddle her. Well, I told her, like, that's not me. Okay. I'm going to tell you straight up. I'm blunt. And I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. If you want someone to tell you what you want to hear, go to one of your fake friends. Okay. I'm like, it's not me. And so, she couldn't handle the feedback I was giving her. And so, I mean, this is an assignment that I've worked on for 3 years, and I'm talking like so much time. I can't even tell you how much time I've poured into this woman. And of course, all my advocacy work, I do complimentary, but like if I were to bill someone like billable hours, hundreds of thousands of dollars I've invested in this woman. And then Jesus told me I had to leave her. I had to abandon the assignment. And I basically had to tell her, listen, like, I have a lot of love for you, but like, you really, like, you are your own worst enemy. And you need to, Jesus wants you to enter a season alone just with him. And because I believe that the spirit of Judah has entered her ever since she lost in court. And so she's, this sense of like entitlement and stuff has entered her. And it's like really sad to witness, but since the beginning of the assignment with her, I've told her I mean, she'll go on and on and on with these, these panic. And I always say, you know what I'm going to tell you? Trust God. And so here you have this woman who's, quoting Bible verses and, this and that. But then in every real life scenario, it could be going to Starbucks and getting there on time and being worried you're going to be 20 minutes late. Like, she always panics. I'm like, well, then you don't really trust God. So in this season, she has to go. To lose me is like, I mean, it's unfathomable for her. But it's out of love, right? Just like you said in one of your reels last week, when God tells you to leave relationships, that's obedience. That's radical. That's love, right?
Correct.
I love her. I care about her, and therefore she has to endure a season of like isolation so that she can really think. Because I was like, listen, I'm sick of repeating myself. You need to apply what I've taught you. Like,
it's also your way of honoring her.
100%. Exactly.
People get honor so confused.
I know, don't they?
Like, you hear the word honor and you think like, oh, that means that you have to tolerate somebody's dysfunction.
Yeah, exactly.
And the best way to honor someone is to decide not to tolerate the dysfunction.
Like Jesus, Jesus is a corrector. Like, if I care about you, I'm going to correct you. If you have spinach in your teeth right now, I'm going to tell you, right? Mm-hmm. And like, if I feel that you're doing, this a little too softly or this a little too harshly or whatever, I'm going to tell you because I care about you and I want constructive feedback is invaluable. Because that means that people actually care. That's different than someone just bashing you, right? Mm-hmm. My mom, if I would want to feel like if I'm in the mood for some feedback, I could just call my mom. She's gonna give it to me regardless, Mm-hmm. But it's all out of a place of love, right? Because as a result of her constructive criticism from the time I was born, she basically created this woman with like incredible work ethic and all these other qualities. Of course, there's, cons to that as well, but I value her feedback because I know when I get a compliment from her, I know it's real. Mm-hmm. I don't have to question the sincerity of it. Mm-hmm. So in the case of this assignment that I had to put on pause, as I told her, it's really sad because it's like in 3 years of like just devout support for her, it's like she started to regress after the court loss. But if she had listened to me the entire time and was obedient, here's the thing, and I know with you too, our assignments, like, I just listen to what Jesus tells me. The blueprint is different for every assignment. But the thing is, you have to follow the exact instructions. So like, just like I always say, when, let's say I'm going to John Wayne to pick you up and I don't know how to get there, I have to amp it out and, get on the freeway, turn right, turn left, or you're baking cookies you have to like put all the ingredients together and then put them in the oven. You can't skip a step or it doesn't work. And what's so frustrating as an advocate who is radically obedient like yourself is that most people just kind of pick and choose what they want to listen to. Right. And that's not the way it works. You don't get your PhD in psychiatry or psychology by not going to a couple of classes. You have to like take the entire program, right?
Maybe that's why what a lot of people are calling faith is actually just fear masked.
Yeah.
Because it's the picking and choosing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
I'm comfortable with this, so I'll do this, but that.
It's like, oh, how convenient. Like,
yeah.
Like Jesus has becoming
that's below mustard seed.
Yeah, 100%.
That's below.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this right now, when the Bible says have faith of a mustard seed, if you're picking and choosing, you haven't even reached mustard.
Facts.
Seed level faith yet.
Georgie. Yeah, a radical obedience requires, tremendous sacrifice and pain. Like it's when Jesus says, make certain demands, I'm like, are you sure? And he's like, yes, I'm sure. And I'm like, okay. And it requires a complete, a lot of it leads to complete transformation.
Yeah.
Georgie, stop. When you're radically obedient, like, everything wonderful happens, because essentially in my opinion, what Jesus is leading you into doing is to setting the highest standard for yourself in every aspect of your life and honoring yourself ultimately. So when people pick and choose, all they're doing is selling themselves short. It's like cheating on a test or plagiarizing an essay. It's like, you know that you didn't write the essay, you know you got that from somewhere else. Like, so then in your mind, you know you're like a fraud and you have imposter syndrome then, right? Then the negative self-talk, right?
Correct. And you know, and I know this, like, especially like in your advocating work, for example, like you had to go through quite the journey to come to a place where when somebody stands before you,
Yeah.
you know exactly how to deal with that.
Exactly. Because
You're not reading a book and referencing notes.
Exactly.
No, you've lived this stuff.
Exactly. That I say that all the time. Like, I feel like as an advocate, what makes me really unique compared to lawyers and other advocates is that I have been through more than anyone I know. And even like yesterday, I was creating a chronology of my life that I needed to give to my attorneys. And it took me all night. But then I put it into ChatGPT to like organize it all. And it said, unfortunately, you've had too much trauma and abuse. We cannot, we have to break it into separate documents. And so they broke it into like different chapters, like 7 or 8 different chapters. And I was like, I mean, if ChatGPT's mind is freaking out, this robot mind.
Yeah.
So I say all that to say though that, you know, having actual experience in the realm of abuse, for example, and domestic violence, to be a mental health, children's rights, and domestic violence advocate, I've had to have been through a lot in order to have the skill set, like the artillery, and to have the compassion. And, you know, when Jesus assigns me to somebody, he's basically working in unison with me to show that person how much Jesus loves that person by sending me, because then I'm sent as a blessing in their lives. And so that I love, because it's an honor that it's like, oh, thanks, Jesus, you know.
Wow.
That's cool, you know.
Wow.
And so when the beauty of that too then is that when it's healing for me too, because it's like if I'm able to help someone else and guide them to, you know, benefit from the wisdom that I've acquired through great, immense pain, then it's like, oh, it wasn't in vain, right? That's the whole point.
God speaks to me so much through the work that I do and the people that I help. They may have no idea, but they'll say something as they're transforming, as they're coming to a new level. The Lord will, even as they're going through their experience, I get something that heals something in me.
Exactly. Every time.
Bears witness with me. Renews something in me. And that's why I say to people, I'm like, don't wait until you're fully whole to start. Because there's always something else, right? There's always something else, like something, you know, let's say you know, got, you know, you're not in touch with your brother, and then he randomly called, and then that like triggered you in a way that you haven't been triggered in years, and you're like, oh gosh, I thought I was healed from that, but I'm not, right? Exactly. Healing is a journey. And something that I have also encountered quite a bit, most recently 2 days ago with a couple that I'm assigned to, is that, so the male, they both have had like extreme trauma in their lives, like really horrific stuff. And the male, he shuts down. His trauma response is, you know, like a dismissive avoidant. Totally understand based on his background. But what the woman does is she goes crazy, like postal, like absolutely insane. And like, I mean, it's impossible to talk to her because she just becomes like, it's like the Jerry Springer show, you know? And so here I'll be like trying to guide her. But then, I mean, it's the only assignment I've ever had where like, I literally have to hang up on her because it's like, I was like, listen, I'm like, my daughter's right there. You're not going to be yelling with her there. I don't want her to get upset. And so yesterday she was like trying to blame him for all this stuff that is, you know, she gets so mad that he's come. And I'm like, I was like, listen, and she's another one that I have to like yell at basically in order for her to listen. It's like, it's so interesting. It's like, I have to be mean in order, probably abusive person. It's like Jesus, right? Yeah. So I like went hard on her. Like I return her energy, but in a professional manner.
And so I was like, listen, I know that you want to like talk about him, but you're not him. I can only guide you right now.
Correct.
When I speak to him, I'm guiding him. When I speak to you, I'm guiding you. No one can control anything that happens in life, but we can 100% control the way we respond. So I was like, yes, we know that he has an issue with shutting down. This is based on his trauma in his own life, and this year they have both endured a lot, and so they both are like very traumatized right now. However, she goes absolutely crazy, and she has all the like trauma responses of like, almost like a player, a man who's a player, like, the self-sabotage, like, she'll be feeling insecure that he's cheating on her. He absolutely is not. And so then she'll go text one of her ex-boyfriends, something, just like all the projection, and it's bad, all the projection and stuff. And so yesterday she she took his keys for their apartment. They share an apartment. And then, so then he went to grab her keys so that he could make a spare copy. They live together, right? And he needs to be able to get in the apartment.
Sure.
She called the cops on him. He called the cops saying that someone was harassing her. And I was like, I went off on her. I was like, do not take advantage of the criminal justice system like that, wasting the cops' time and stuff like that, pretending. She's like, well, I'm like, he's your boyfriend and you live together. Like, that's disgusting. I was like, you need to repent. You're going to go to hell if you continue to do that, because like there's nothing worse. Like, narcissists in the family court system, they weaponize it, in the civil court system, they weaponize it. In the criminal justice system, they weaponize it. They file false police reports. They, too much paperwork, that run up the legal fees. That their objective is to get, their opponent to give up, And so I was so disappointed. And her and the other girl I was talking about who lost in court, they're both like the ultimate victims. So and listen, they have been victims. I've been a victim, but I don't associate myself with being a victim. I'm a victor. It's like,
say that.
Yeah, it's like, it's like not even, it's like, yeah, I went through this and I survived, and here I am, and here to tell the story. Whereas when you remain in that victim mode, as they both do, it's like so disempowering. It's like you're like, yeah, I want to be a loser.
No, correct. Like,
yeah.
As you were speaking.
Poor me.
As you were speaking, this came to me two things. One, if you really want to walk in faith, you have to get your energy from Jesus.
100%. That's the only source.
The people that walk in fear, they get all their energy from other people.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
The narc walks in fear.
Oh, yeah.
The narc victim walks in fear.
Oh, yep.
The narc survivor walks in
It's like
fear.
musical chairs.
No, literally.
Musical fears.
It literally. So it's like,
That's
this
so
is
true.
a huge thing. It's like, where are you getting your energy from? Who is the source of your energy? Because in the case of what you just described, that guy, they're feeding each other like the wrong energy.
Exactly.
And they're not content within themselves.
Exactly. And that's so once I continued to go off on her, and then I was like, listen, I understand that I don't want to hear about him though. Like, she's like, well, it's hard not to talk about him. I'm like, listen, it's not that you can't say his name.
She's allowing him to control.
Exactly.
Her.
I said, but you.
And he's not.
Exactly. I was like, but you're responsible for the way that you behave, and the way that you're behaving is despicable. And, and I advocate for you. I'm not your friend. I'm going to tell you what you don't want to hear. And your behavior is disgusting, and I'm ashamed of you. You should be ashamed of yourself, because I have invested so much time in her, and for her to be using these like amateur narky tactics when she's a survivor of narcissistic abuse, and then you are embodying the same traits of a narcissist, that's highly problematic.
That's a big thing.
Yeah, it is.
That
it's so annoying.
That is a huge thing. That's something I talk about so much, because it's like, it's actually so easy it's extremely easy when you've been the victim and that's all you know, and then you end up embodying the very thing
Yeah.
that repulsed you.
Exactly. I
that
watch it happen all the
traumatized you.
time. And I'm like, wait, huh? You are projecting right now. You're gaslighting. Like I said to her, you're no victim, honey. Like the things you do are crazy. Like if I can see why she's had some domestic violence and why she's been abused, not by this boyfriend, but by other boyfriends. Cause she is like, she gets in your face. She goes nuts. So it's like, I mean, anyone could have a response to where they're going to smack her in the face or something, because it's like, she's so hostile, you know? And I'm like, he's not responsible. He's not, you had all this dirty laundry, all this trash that you brought into the relationship. And you're punishing him because of what these other guys did. That's not fair. It's like the goal when you're going into a relationship is to enter it with a suitcase filled with no laundry, and then you can put beautiful clean laundry in it, right?
Well, when you said like whenever you would talk to her, she would say like, "Well, this is what he did. This is what he said. This is what is God saying, man?"
Yeah, exactly. Literally.
What is God saying? Like nobody's
Yeah.
nobody's asking that question.
Exactly. And she's pregnant. And I was like, do you realize that when your baby is like getting all this nasty, all these.
Man.
I was like, do you under? She's like, that. Well, that's your opinion. I said, no.
No,
I said,
that's
no, that's a
reality.
fact.
That's
a fact.
reality.
And my opinion is factual, and it's also valid.
You know how many spiritual umbilical cords I've had to cut?
Oh my gosh, I literally just did it a week ago on a sonogram. I saw demons in a sonogram. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was the first time I've ever seen that. It was incredible.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like,
Wow.
there were like 3 demons in it.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, holy cow. Yeah. Well, how do you do that? What you just said, cutting the.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's the realization that a lot of what you're carrying doesn't even belong to you.
Exactly. It's from
It came
previous
from
generations.
before you.
Exactly.
And the only thing connecting you to it, because what we do is when we take that on, because it passes through the womb, we take ownership of it because we believe it belongs to us.
Yeah, totally.
Which is a lie of the
It's like a
enemy.
burden, a generational
And-
burden, essentially.
Correct. And as we take ownership of it, then it wears us down. So the first thing is to realize it don't actually belong to you. Like there's a lady I'm working with right now. When she was younger, she would have experiences where demons would come into her room and do like sexual acts with her.
Oh, wow, really?
And she would enjoy it,
When she was a kid?
like teenager.
Oh, wow.
And-
that made for an interesting teenage years. Oh, my.
And she had all this shame because she's like, why is this happening, number one? And why do I enjoy it, number two? And I must be so bad that this is happening and I'm enjoying it and the thing. And I said to her, and this like just took the breath out of her, it's like, dude, this actually has nothing to do with you. This has everything to do with where you come from, your lineage. And I said, something was passed through you, through the womb, that opened you up to even have these experiences in the first place. Because I did a check and there was nothing where it was like evident, like there was no like opening of like the occult through like acts or anything like that with her. I'm like, dude, this was passed to you. And so to your question about the umbilical cord, I'm like, okay, what's the name of the parent or parents? And I spiritually disconnect that person from the mom, the dad, whoever it needs to be, the uncle, the aunt, whoever it needs to be. And it's usually like, it's like this rope.
Yep.
I just take the sword of the spirit and I cut it.
That's amazing.
And I do it with my mouth.
Well, I mean, I know what you did on Zoom with the demon around my heart from narc abuse, and that was incredible. It was like, I didn't even know that I had it because I was a healed woman, but there was that, I was just so used to the heart pain. I thought it was normal.
Yeah. No,
And I feel like a different woman ever since. Like nothing bothers me anymore. It's incredible. I used to get like occasionally upset about things, and now like nothing bothers me. I'm like, namaste all the time. Like nothing matters. Thank you so much. You changed my life, seriously. Like I had no idea. And it was like, wow, like I feel like a completely different person. It's like my lungs, everything is just, I can breathe, like everything's so regulated.
Yeah, no, like the enemy is so crafty, man.
Yeah, seriously.
And
The beauty
these
of doom and
snakes,
chasing.
they get in there and they wrap themselves around you. And it was so interesting the way you described it to me, because it was like you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was like you said, like your heart was out here, and it was like Jesus like pushed it back
Yeah.
into you. And I meditated on that afterwards, because I was like, there's a real revelation in that, because one of the things I believe the enemy seeks to do with those who have survived a great amount of abuse is he wants their heart to become hard.
Yes, 100%. To your point, so the Jerry Springer girl, her. So she started to listen to me, and when I referenced my own life. So because of the amount of trauma that I've had, I in 2014 I got a brain scan, and then I got another one in 2021. And the one in 2021, I'll show you after this. It was insane. Like they call it like the Bermuda Triangle of trauma. It's like basically the most messed up brain ever. And so I showed that to her, and she was like, oh, she was like amazed. But because I wasn't, then she realized I'm not judging her, right? I'm coming from a place of experience. And I said, listen, I used to go postal like you. I was like, not that bad, but I would, overreact to things. And without EMDR, I would not be where I am today. EMDR like literally changed my life, because it regulates your nervous system. It reprocesses trauma, and it truly works. It's amazing. You're like, do, and then you reprocess it, it's gone. But when I started EMDR therapy, which I started November 28th of 2022, the brain scan I got was July 12th, 2021. My dad's would have been his birthday. And then I started 11/28/22, and it was interesting because in the intake form, Marta had her. She was my therapist. She was amazing. She was like the only Christian based therapist that I've ever had. And traditional therapy is a joke. I'd rather just talk to you. It's like why talk to some like really messed up person and here's $200 for nothing. But when I completed the intake form, and then she read it, and then she was like. And I only put like 1% of my life on there. And she was like, and then we had a session, and she's like, it's incredible that you are the way that you are, because based on the amount of trauma you've had, you should be an absolute mess. But I went from a very young age, I learned how to self-regulate. And so, it's all part of my anointing, right? Like as I always say, I'm like an admiral in the Navy SEALs. I had to earn that rank. It took, 43 years basically to earn that rank of like, horrible, like deep pain. But it's when pain is the greatest teacher, right? Because that's when you really have to go all in with God, is in those moments of like just. I used to in 2021. I went through so much. Oh, it was just awful. I would go in my backyard, and I would turn on the rain curtain, and I would just cry and just beg Jesus, like, please, please help me. Like just so much pain, and like no one to talk to, no one that I could trust. Like so many people betraying me, people stealing from me. Like it was so much. But it's in those moments when you're really like pleading and begging Jesus for mercy. And that's when you get it, right? Because it's like you're finally acknowledging him. He's there all the time, right? But you can't just go to him when it's convenient, Yeah. It's like when you're, and that's one of the wonderful things that I've experienced in being radically obedient, which, in 2022, so I started the EMDR, and then at the end of 2022, Jesus told me that I had to go all in with my healing in 2023 and fully devote myself to that. So I did. And then he said by 2025, I would be a completely different person, and that I would be fully serving him in my anointing. And that's exactly what happened. Wow. All I did was listen to him. Imagine that. Wow.
He told you that in 2023?
Yeah, at the end of December 22nd is when he told me that.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I listened to him. Exact instructions. I listened to everything he said, and he was spot on, of course, because it's Jesus, right? He's the one who writes the blueprint, right? Yeah. And so it's like really that simple. It's if you just listen to him, but most people don't like to listen, right? They want to do what they want to do. And then that's the flesh, right? And then there's the spirit. You have to starve the flesh.
You have to listen, because that's the only way you're going to get faith.
Exactly.
Faith
Literally.
comes by hearing.
Exactly.
And hearing by the word.
Exactly. And then also when you start practicing and listening to him, and then you realize that you actually heard his voice all along, but you didn't trust that because that's discernment, right? Like every single mistake I've made in my life is because I didn't trust my instinct, or I felt bad. I'm like, I was like, well, yeah, this doesn't feel right, but I felt sorry for this person or that person, so I helped them anyways, and then I ended up being screwed over. So it's like he's always there. We just have to call on him. But I think it's so interesting when people like my baby daddy's mom, like her name's Tina, and he'll go, beat someone up or go pimp out some prostitute or whatever, and then he'll get arrested and she'll say, I'm just gonna pray on it, honey. And I'm like, oh, Tina, stop, please.
No.
Please stop. Like, stop enabling this monster. You have 3 beautiful granddaughters and he is a psychopath. Like, stop.
I've come to realize this, Kelly. So many people use prayer as an excuse to be lazy.
Exactly. And God doesn't reward laziness.
Spiritual laziness.
Oh, that's one of my biggest pet peeves. I'm just going to pray on it, honey. Like, no, you need to take action. Like, God, Jesus is not going to just reward a bunch of gluttonous sloths. Like, sloth is a deadly sin for a reason. We have to put in the work. Like I always say, like the cookie metaphor, it's like, if I pray for something and then God, what will happen is I'll pray diligently, and then Jesus will give me all of the ingredients in order to make that prayer come true. But you actually have to put in the work, right? I'm about to bake those chocolate chip cookies, and I've got the chocolate chips, and I've got the egg, and I got the flour, and I've got the sugar and the salt and the baking powder and the baking soda. But then you have to mix them all together, all the ingredients, and you have to put them in the oven and pay attention, take them out in like 10 minutes or so. And you can't like forget the baking soda, right? Yeah. You have to like actually like be diligent. And that's what I think is so like funny about most people is like they just pretend that they're into God. They pretend that but then they go to church, and the second you turn your head, they're talking about you. So the few instances that I do go to church, I always wear something that I shouldn't wear to trigger people, because it shows me who needs help, right? Because like we don't have the right to judge one another, right? The church, I think one of the things that is so disappointing about the church system as it is, right, is that Jesus wants to save people, so that means that anyone should be able to go into church, right? They should, in any state. They could be homeless, they could have purple hair and nose rings, they could be 500 pounds, they could be a drug addict, they could be anything. But the average person, when they see someone like that coming in the church, they're going to turn them away. They're going to shun them. They're going, oh my God, did you see that? That's not very Christian.
Not at all.
Yeah, it's horrible.
In fact,
so it turns people off, and that's why a lot of people don't, get turned away from the church.
I think majority of the like brick and mortar buildings, because the church is us, but I don't think Jesus would be in like 95% of them.
I 100% agree, because church people are generally terrible. They love to gossip, right? It's like, hey, Sally, here's some cookies. Oh my God, did you see what Deborah was wearing? Like, it's like, that's not, and the way that they live, like anyone can go to church on Sunday, right? But who knows what they were doing the night before? Who knows what they were saying when they went to the bathroom? They're not living a life.
Who's actually on assignment?
Exactly, right? Exactly. It's just part of the matrix, Friday night, TGIF, let's go to the movies. Saturday, go out. Sunday, go to church, repent, and, confess or whatever at the Catholic Church. And then you're forgiven, how ridiculous is that? Like, I have to go to someone, and just the concept is so ridiculous.
It's a hamster wheel.
Exactly. It's all, once again, going back to fear, our initial topic. Yeah. That's a fear-based system. Control and fear. Everything, COVID, everything's control and fear.
Yeah. Interestingly enough about
Zoe,
COVID,
open the door for Georgie, please.
I found that people that were really fearful during COVID, I don't know if you experienced this. I found that people that were extremely fearful during COVID, they were actually way more susceptible to getting it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
And the people that weren't afraid,
I didn't get it once, and I also At the time, I had a cannabis distro in Long Beach, and so it was an essential business. So I was at work all the time because everyone was getting high, right? They're on lockdown, and I would get in like very passionate arguments with people about the masking and stuff because it's so ridiculous. I'm like, that's not doing anything for you. You simply can't breathe, right? and so I would make fake vaccination cards for people so that they didn't have to actually get vaccinated. But that was such an interesting human experiment. It was like George Orwell's 1984. How quickly people gave away their basic right to breathe. But then you have these liberal, pro-choice people who are not pro-choice about the COVID vaccination. Make that make sense. So you're all about me being able to choose whether or not I can abort my baby, but when it comes to putting an experimental drug in my body, you're like, you must get it. That's insane.
Canada was going like communist.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I remember. It was crazy.
Bad.
Yeah, and I knew instantly. I was like, no, this is. I mean, first of all, I majored in journalism, so it's like if you turn on the news, which I don't turn. I have 6 TVs. I don't know how to turn them on. I'm not kidding. I have no idea. I don't watch TV. But in the rare instance that TV's on, say at like a doctor's office or something, and you see CNN in the COVID era, or ABC, and then it's like sponsored by Pfizer. Well, that's your first red flag. That means that every newscaster it's a PR campaign for the vaccination. And then all of a sudden you see all these newscasters stuff dropping dead because that's their karma for promoting this. It's no one got COVID. They got vaccinated and then they got sick because the COVID was just the flu on steroids, and it attacked people with preconditions because it's all about depopulation. And this isn't rocket science, and it's not a conspiracy theory. Like it's logic, on the most basic level. Talk about a money grab. And now that the miscarriage rate and stuff is like 300% or something, like anyone that got vaccinated pretty much can't carry a baby to full term.
Wow.
Yeah, which was part of the plan. It's depopulation.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nuts. But that was like the how quickly people gave in to fear. I mean, and how ridiculous Fauci with the social distancing, which he admitted he made up. Like, obviously, he's the same person that created AIDS in the 80s. But it's just sad because think of all the arguments people got in with, like, it was like Rosa Parks. It was like, did you get vaccinated? Did you get vaccinated? It's like, seriously, that's what, like, it broke up families and stuff. Thankfully, I'm already estranged from mine, except for my mom, so it doesn't matter. but yeah, I just like, it's all about fear, right? And so it's like the 1% of people were us, right? And a few other people out there were, didn't give in to the fear.
This is why you need faith. Because the faith that you have, it's determined by how much light is inside of you.
100%.
How many words that have come from God have you actually allowed to go from here into here? Have you allowed that to marinate in your heart? Are you allowing yourself to become the words that he has spoken over you? That's how you're gonna still be awake when things happen around the world and everybody panics. What will keep you on the right track, on the God track, will be determined by how much of his light is inside of you.
100%. And I feel like that light is also in complete congruence with radical authenticity, which is the highest frequency. It's higher than love and self-love, because it's like, if you are really embodying the word of Jesus, then you're automatically going to love yourself. You're automatically going to be radically authentic because you're going to be original the way he designed you. You're not going to try to be like somebody else. And Orange County, where we are right now, is a sea of followers. I mean, it's just a bunch. It's like, Alo's the brand that the girls wear here now. Like, I wore Alo before everyone wore Alo. Now I don't wear Alo. But first it was Lululemon, and now it's Alo. And so it's like, if I see an Alo girl, I'm like, oh God, it's like, she doesn't have her own sense of style. So, and that's applicable in all areas. It's like all these people who are wannabes is like, oh, that person has a Range Rover, I need a Range Rover. It's like, what? Like, I just like to be myself. I don't care what other people have or don't have. I'm just focused on my own priorities and my own goals. But most people can't think for themselves. So that's why they're getting advice when they're, say, pregnant, like out of wedlock, and getting unqualified advice from someone speaking to the filter of their own wounds, and then they potentially make decisions that they'll regret for the rest of their lives. I thank God every day that I took the leap of faith, and that I had full faith, and I knew that this was God's plan and that everything would be all right. I thank God every day that I did not give in to the pressure and have an abortion. I don't know where I would be today if I had done that.
That's so sad you had all that pressure.
It was crazy. And not only that, but the racism, because, I'm white. And my best friend growing up, she's black, and she's still my best friend. So I saw some of what she experienced, being a beautiful black girl with the braids, and, a single mom who's a doctor, and just, we went to a pretentious private school, and her family was like one of two black families. But this is the first time I personally experienced racism, because I was impregnated with a biracial baby. And so it was crazy. Like, because it was like, first of all, if I were married, no one would be saying to have an abortion, right? And when I was married, my ex-husband, he was abusive. So, but let's say he impregnated me, but we were married, no one would be telling me to have an abortion, right? But then I get impregnated out of wedlock, and because the guy's black and he's a criminal, and listen, it wasn't planned by me, but it was planned by God, right? I mean, I didn't even think I could get pregnant, because I was always told that I would need IVF in order to get pregnant, and I had been celibate for like months. And I had just gotten baptized Mormon, actually, believe it or not, in September of what year? 2015, because I just wanted to like live a clean life, and I would have my missionary girls over and make them dinner, and we'd read the Book of Mormon. And then I meet this thug at a party across the hall, and I had no idea what, and I was clueless, and I was drugged at the party too. I was pregnant 10 days later, literally. And here I was always told that I could never get pregnant without IVF. And then I'm pregnant. And I remember him saying, I'm going to impregnate you. And then sure enough, I was pregnant. And so he was right. The doctor was wrong all these years. But by the time I figured out who he was, I was already pregnant. And so, but then what do you do? It's like, I was 33 at the time. I always dreamed of being a mom. I never cared about being a wife. I never dreamed about being married, but I always wanted to be a mom. And so, despite the circumstances of the pregnancy, I had just gotten divorced the same week that I met him. So I was very vulnerable. I still hadn't healed from any of the trauma I endured in my marriage. So, the trauma recycles itself until you heal, right? And so, and I mean, I was just insane. Like, I remember him saying, like, can I list your address with my parole officer? And I'm like, what's parole? Well, then his parole officers, popping up to drug test him and stuff. I'm like, oh my God. So then in like maybe a month, I don't remember when it was, but one day I found a meth pipe. Here I thought I met Mr. High Energy, okay, because I'm high energy. And so I didn't realize he was a crackhead, okay? Like, until I found this pipe. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was for weed, but it didn't have like the bowl on the end. It was just like a ball. So I asked him, and then he was like, I guess he told me, and then I freaked out. I was like, oh my God, you cannot do this in my apartment. I broke it, and I ran to the trash chute, and I put it in there. And I said he couldn't do that in my apartment. And so what did he do? He decided to go out and become a pimp. When I was pregnant, yeah. So this is a great story. This is talk about faith, right? So here I'm newly divorced, moved back to Orange County to be close to my mom, get away from my ex-husband who was my first, the first chapter of my anointing as a domestic violence advocate, because he was a narcissist. So that's how I, first learned what that was. And then I get pregnant, by this guy, and he goes out and becomes a pimp. And so for my pregnancy, I was like, I didn't know he was just gone, right? And so, and also here everyone's telling me to have an abortion, and I don't know where he is. He has me blocked on Facebook. He would just pop in when he would pop in, and I didn't know at the time, but he had my phone, GPS on my phone. So and my key to my apartment was like a digital key. So, you just like go in automatically. And so when I was like at a doctor's appointment or whatever, he would come in and he would take my computer, and then he'd return it like days later. And that was my source I needed my computer because I did social media design. So he would return it, and then I would see the ads for, this on Craigslist for, this hooker. And I didn't know what was going on at first, but it was this red, white, and blue bathing suit. And I'm just thinking like, what is going on? So I asked one of my friends, and then he told me that what he thought he was doing, but I was like, oh, no, I don't know. Well, that's what he was doing. On Valentine's Day in 2016, he brought the hooker home to my apartment so that she could take a shower.
Oh my.
And so I recognized her because I saw the red, white, and blue photos, and her nails were very chipped. I was only used to like Julia Roberts and Pretty Woman, I had no experience with hookers, obviously. And so I was like, you need to do your nails. Want to borrow some of my nail polish? And so she washed her hair, she did her nails, and then because he is a meth head, he would go into the bathroom. There are two bathrooms. Go into the bathroom for like hours and pick his face, like little ingrown hairs and stuff. So it was like a horror movie afterwards. So I'm like, great, he'll be in there for a while. So I got to get to know her, and I really felt for her, and I knew this was my first assignment ever, right? I was like, oh, I'm supposed to rescue this girl. So what happened was when she was 14, the reason she became a hooker was because when she was 14, her mom died from cancer. She's from Philadelphia. She's a really good person, an incredible writer. It's very rare that I meet a writer skilled like I am, and she's an amazing writer. Then she became a chef, but then she also became a heroin addict, and she only made $3,000 a month as a chef, and her heroin addiction was $3,000. So then she became a hooker. Her dad found out in Philadelphia. She ended up in California, and then she met my baby daddy on Craigslist when he was, signed up for one of her services or whatever. And so I said, I'm gonna have to rescue this girl. And so then I had to make it seem like I was cool with him being a pimp. So I would book rooms for them, and I had like a safety code system. If he was like put her in a chokehold or something, she would send me like a specific emoji or whatever. And so it was very dangerous. Here I'm pregnant, right? And here I'm putting myself in these very precarious situations. I don't remember a lot of it, but there was, I know he broke a lot of phones. I know I got slap punched a few times, but I broke his arm. So on March 9th of 2016, so February 14th was the day that he brought her to my apartment. Happy Valentine's Day, Kelly. And then March 9th, I get a call from her at like 1 a.m. And she's like, Kelly, he dumped me off in Ontario, which is about 40 minutes from here, and was forcing me to do anal for like $140. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, okay, I'll come pick you up. So I find her, go pick her up. And then this other hooker named Jody was like, I have to come too. If I don't come, then he's going to kill you. And I'm like, okay, great. So here I am in my little red BMW convertible, 20 weeks pregnant with 2 hookers in the back.
Wow.
I drive back to my apartment. I had a new puppy that I got on Valentine's Day. And then and my mom was out of town, so I was watching her dog. So I have the 2 dogs there, the 2 hookers, myself and my baby, who to that point I thought was a boy, because when I first got the sonogram read, the nurse said that I was having a boy. And so then he calls me, and he's like, and I pretended I was sleeping, and I didn't know he had me tracked, And I was like, hello. And he's like, what you doing? And I was like, I don't know what I said. Well, then because the digital key and it's after hours, he comes in, and it got very violent. I remember he put her on the balcony in a chokehold, and then threw her out in the hall. And then he's like throwing all this stuff at me, like vases, nail polish, beer bottles, everything. So I'm like this, And I've got my little dogs. I don't want their paws to get all glassy. And then, I was afraid of him hurting the baby. So then at some point, I broke his arm with a broom. And so then he got out of there. And then I think I probably called the cops or something, or his parole officer. And then a few days later, he got, that night I went to the ER and I found out that the baby was okay. I got an ultrasound and I found out that he was a she.
Wow.
And I was so happy because I knew that I could easily raise a girl, but I was a little worried about having a boy because he would be rather flamboyant if you were my son. Like, let's go to a fashion show. And so I was like just at complete ease. And so then he got arrested March 14th and he ended up getting sentenced to, or not sentenced, he got charged 61 years, but he ended up doing a plea deal for 8 Years. Human trafficking, pimping, pandering, attempted pimping and pandering, domestic violence with child, which is because of what he did to me when I was pregnant, and witness intimidation. He got a strike because he tried to convince me to marry him on a jail recorded call. Like, why would I marry you, dude?
Wow.
So I want to have to testify against him. So what I did though is I like I said, I pretended to be cool with it. And the whole time I was building discovery. So I was putting all my evidence in Dropbox. So then when the human trafficking department came to interview me, here you go. Here's all your evidence. Because I could not wrap my head around the fact that this man had 2 beautiful daughters. Zoe has 2 half sisters. 2 beautiful daughters and then 1 on the way. And then you're pimping out innocent people. Like... Wow. And so the girl, she ended up moving back to Philadelphia, and we follow each other on Instagram. She's had a very difficult healing journey. It's really sad, but she, says I'm the best person that she's ever met. And so that was my first successful assignment. But so talk about faith. Like, this is not just an instance to where I got, pregnant out of wedlock and it was like I was taking, professional photo shoots and, eating, in and out all day. Like, I was like in very dangerous situations.
You were in war mode.
Yeah, literally war mode. It was insane. And it was basically playing detective and being undercover, and I couldn't tell anyone, hey mom, he's a pimp. I couldn't tell anybody what was going on. I had to keep everything a secret. And so all I had was God, right? That's all I had. But despite the circumstances, I loved being pregnant. I had a nutritionist and I, ate extremely healthy. I only gained 15 pounds until the end, which was like, inflammation. My legs were like oak trees by the time she actually was born. But she was actually due on my birthday.
Wow.
But she came 9 days early on July 24th. No one in a million years would ever imagine that they would get pregnant out of wedlock and then that person that they accidentally got impregnated by would become a pimp and then they would go rescuing hookers throughout the pregnancy. But that's what happened, right?
Wow.
And so like fear, faith, right?
Yeah.
I was in a lot of scary situations and throughout that pregnancy, but I freaking beat his ass every time. Like every time. And he's a big guy. He's scary too. He has an extensive record. Since he got released from prison, he's been arrested like 14 times. And I've helped other victims of his since he's been out too.
Wow.
But it's like, I'm not afraid of him. So, and I think but he is afraid of me, which is funny. So here he preys upon all these other people, but he's afraid of me because he knows that I'll destroy him because I've got Jesus and he's a full on, he's still doing the same stuff from what I hear. I don't talk to him obviously, but every once in a while I'll get like 30 messages from him. But everyone was trying to make me be afraid. And the thing is I had no fear, 0 fear.
Wow.
Yeah. So if that's not a fear versus faith story, I don't know what is. Because it was honestly a terrifying experience. But nonetheless, I knew that I was going to make it through because every single breakdown leads to breakthrough, and every single obstacle for me I view as an opportunity because I knew I was going to make it. I view everything as basically a marathon. I knew I was gonna win the marathon.
Yeah.
I just had to keep going.
You played the long game. Yeah. That's so powerful, Kelly, that you shared that. as you were talking, it was like God's ways are just so different.
Yeah.
And even in the most precarious situations, he finds a way to insert himself in there. And for you to be pregnant and to be rescuing women
Yeah.
out of these demonic situations, that is extremely profound.
Yeah, it was my first, it was really marked the beginning of my anointing. And so that's when, I mean, talk about a great first experience, right?
Not only are you carrying life
Yeah, yeah.
inside of you, but God is working with you, through you,
Yeah.
to position women.
Yes.
Because, oh my goodness, that's trafficking, pimping, all that stuff.
Oh, it's so
such a death trap.
the thing that, so what's so interesting about him is that I mean, I would watch spirits enter him. Like, he's got Jezebel, Leviathan, and Python. And, you know, the rabid eyes. And it was so funny. I remember like a week or two before he got arrested. And I told him he was going to, I was like, I said, your hubris is going to get the best of you. Just like Macbeth. I don't think he knew what that meant. He certainly has not read Shakespeare. But he was in my office and I have all my degrees and all these accomplishments. He's like, I made you. I'm like, dude, we just met. Like, all you did was put a baby inside me because he thought it was his lotto ticket. Like, no, dude, you're not going to get anything. She's going to get everything though. And so, you know, he is used to preying upon vulnerable people. And so, which, you know, as you know, trauma is a portal for demons, right? So when I've noticed a pattern, you know, with not only with the way he targeted me, but also other women that he's targeted that I know of. So he basically categorizes women into two categories. There's ones that are like assets, ones he can get something from. And these are going to be very vulnerable women who it's always the same. They always have a parent that committed suicide. They always have, they always are divorced or out of a long relationship. Wow. And they want kids but don't have kids. Those are the three variables. So then he's getting vulnerable women who he then uses his children, you know, at the time, Zoe's older sisters, as bait because they're beautiful little biracial girls. And here I was 33 and I so badly wanted babies. And then he would call them, little did I know at the time that, you know, their mother had an active restraining order against him, but he would call and be like, hi, sweetie, da, 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 like not even allowed to talk to them. I didn't know. And so, you know, he fed me this whole false narrative and everything else. And so, it worked because I felt bad for him. You know, I felt, oh my God, it's so cruel of the mom to do that to him. Like, you know, because I just took what he said at face value. And then you think the other women I know, same exact thing. And so then what happens is they get entrapped in these situations and they don't know what to do. So like the one I helped in 2023, she, you know, told him everything because, you know, women get lonely and whatever else. And her ex and her had just broken up and that ex had given her $1 million in cash. And so she was dumb enough to tell my baby daddy this. And he's really good at like creating shell companies. And then he's really good at pitching ideas. And then he'll take the money and then spend it on like cocaine and stuff like that. And so he took $200,000 from her. And so she, you know, felt like she needed to I was like, honey, you need to just forget about that money. You're never going to. It's not worth it. Like I've lost millions of dollars from him between everything he's stolen and me helping his family and everything else. And I'm never going to get it back, but I do have good karma from it. So I'll take that. But it's like, but when you're in those moments of loneliness and depression and, you know, depression and regression and all that stuff, that's when these demons can thrive because that's how they get access. And so that's, you know, like I said, I had just gotten divorced the same week that I met him. Wow. And compared to my ex-husband, who's a triathlon coach and personal trainer, you know, he's really good at triathlons and personal training, but he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, you know? So when I met my baby daddy and it was refreshing. He seemed smart, but he knows just enough to get over on people. So it's like he knows just enough Farsi, just enough Mandarin, because it's like he's been in prison so many times that he had plenty of time to study in prison. And he told me he went to Cal State Fullerton and was a firefighter. No, he went to fire camp, which is like something at prison, And wow. So, you know, part of my anointing too is because of my experience with him. I've learned to do background checks on people. I do background checks all the time. Prior to him, I never did. I never had a reason to. But everything was a lie, right? And so yeah, so I mean that first experience was very powerful. I would say it was actually really my second experience in my anointing, because the first one was my divorce and everything from my ex-husband. But that wasn't dangerous. That was just like, that was narcissistic abuse. It was nothing like the second adventure. What an adventure indeed it was. But I mean, I learned so much. So it's like I always say, it's like, like I said earlier, pain is the greatest teacher. So I could read about all this stuff in a book, right? Like let's say a criminology class, but it's just going to go into my short-term memory. But I remember everything from what I learned, all the hard lessons that were earned through pain and danger and everything else. You don't forget those. They change you.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
but my therapist, she Marta, who I was talking about earlier, like she's amazed that none of that has hardened my heart. And I'm grateful for that as well, because a hardened heart is a closed heart, and a closed heart can't receive love or give love because of fear. And then self-sabotage and all these other horrible things happen.
That's right.
So that's why, though, it's really important to learn boundaries. And boundaries have nothing to do with fear. It's really about, in my opinion, about being able to maintain, basically, build some gates around your heart so that you can remain true to yourself and continue to live in faith.
Yeah, the Lord actually taught me something about this recently. As you become more, you accept who He says you are, and you take more ownership of it in however that looks. Advocate, demon slayer, getting hookers out of like whatever that looks like, whatever that comes with, you just accept all of it. The more of who you are, it's like that has become like the backdoor entry to discernment for me.
I agree.
Because it's like everything that isn't, it's like, oh, well, that doesn't align with who He says I am. That doesn't align with who He says I am. That doesn't align.
Yeah, it's like a vetting system.
It just falls off.
Yeah, that's so true.
So it's like the more God-fitted you are, everything else just falls out.
That's so
it's like
true.
it doesn't even align.
Yeah, exactly. Because what happens is the energetic frequency no longer aligns. And so, like you said, the things just fall off. That I've had the same exact experience. And then also, it's like it becomes like you never question whether or not that's God's voice. Like that's Him. For example, my former next door neighbor, she moved, but she's one of my assignments. In fact, I've been assigned to two people on the street, one across and one next door, but I've helped them both and now they're both gone. She talk about trauma, married to a narc. She has 5 kids. She's 29, beautiful beautiful girl, but she 3 baby daddies, 3 young one, a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old with the husband. But he left her for her first baby daddy's sister. Okay, so it's a really messed up situation. And he's got a lot of money, and he's like one of those, flexes it all over Instagram, and it's like super obnoxious. And he's got the Leviathan and Jezebel spirit, and so does his fiance. She's Jezebel from hell. Like, oh my gosh, she's terrifyingly despicable. But so the neighbor, she didn't like me. She thought I was crazy. Okay, because the neighbor across the street, who is a total Jezebel, she thought she would talk about me and tell everyone I was a Jesus freak, which I am proudly. I'm going to fly my Jesus freak flag. And so one day, the neighbor, she sent me this like crazy message. But I didn't take it personally because I knew she was going through a lot. Like, I didn't know too much about her life, but I could, it's not too hard to figure out that a mother of 5 that's been left by her husband for her first child's sister, is going through a lot, right? And she was pregnant at the time.
First child's sister.
yeah. First child's aunt. Her first child's aunt. I'm sorry. Oh. So her first baby daddy's sister. Yeah, which is insane. So the biological aunt, right? And the biological aunt told her when she was pregnant that she was gonna take her man. And this girl has done destiny swap spells. I mean, she's literally insane. So anyways, the neighbor didn't like me. She thought I was a Jesus freak. She thought I was crazy, right? And so I get this text from her, and I didn't take it personally. And I was just like, I said, listen, I don't take anything you say personally. I said, I was assigned to you. I'm a domestic violence advocate. So when you're ready to start, let me know. And she was like, you're an effing weirdo and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, whatever. Like, she was just having a trauma response. Like, and because she's truly beautiful, and she's been, targeted and used her whole life. So I understand why, why she would automatically not like me, because there's no one has shown up for her in her life.
You just said something so powerful. I think it's key to faith, not allowing yourself to like be in a state of offense.
Oh yeah, it's like it was just her life, I totally understood, and I knew
That's maturity.
Yeah, I knew I was assigned to her too, so it's just always a matter of I always know when I have an assignment, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it takes 8 years for it to start, but this one, it took from the time I met her to the time I started 2 years, I think, and so now, I mean, the message she sent, it was pretty intense, but I'm like, okay, well, she doesn't like, whatever, who cares? Like, a lot of people don't like me. I don't care. But would be a little awkward, passing by, because she'd give me a look, but I didn't care. Like, hi, And so then one night, this is in March of this year, it's midnight. Jesus tells me to go knock on her door and bring her 3 prayer candles, a rosary, and Psalm 23.
You told me.
Yeah, and I'm like, are you sure? And he's like, go now. And so I went, and I knock on the door. It's midnight, and I have the baggie with the candles in it and the rosary and Psalm 23. I was like, hi. I was like, this may sound weird, but Jesus told me to come over. And she was like, oh my gosh. She's like, I literally just prayed for a protection prayer. And she was at the end of her rope at that moment. She was depressed. She was suicidal. Her baby daddy, or husband, actually, they're still legally married. He, like I said, left her with nothing. She was living a very lavish lifestyle. She couldn't even afford groceries when I knocked on that door. Wow. And so I was like, well, I've been assigned to you. So you ready to start? And so I anointed her home the next day. As soon as I finished anointing her home, doves flew in her backyard. It was really cool. And then, I started guiding her. It was literally the perfect time, because of course he was trying to get her to settle, right? He didn't want to go to court because he would lose, but he was trying to capitalize on her trauma responses and her, him knowing her, right? So her being overreactive and stuff like that. Of course, he didn't know that she had me in her corner. And so I said, listen, don't tell anyone about me. I'd like to be the secret weapon, because, it's best for them to think that you're just some dumb whatever, and they'll underestimate you and they'll be wrong, right? So he was trying to get her to settle. And I said, no. I said, do not settle. I said, you will win in court. And so he was trying to get her to settle for $25,000 a month. This guy makes hundreds of thousands of dollars, or if not $1 million a month. And I said, don't do it. But she was desperate at the time, so she almost did. I said, you will get $63,000 a month. Go to court. And so she went to court, and that was the exact amount she got. She got $63,000 a month. Wow. She couldn't believe it. She was like, oh my gosh, Kelly. I was like, Jesus, it's not like I come up with these ideas on my own. Jesus tells me, and then I just relay the information, And so she has been, a really important assignment to me, because also I'm assigned to all of her children as well. And there's 5 of them, and they are idolize us, but we baptize them all in my pool and everything else.
Wow.
But she's someone who, she's had so much trauma, and it's all unhealed, and she has 5 kids to take care of. And so she's, very much at the beginning of her healing journey. But she's come a long way from the time I knocked on her door. Wow. And she's so grateful. She said, and she thanks me all the time. I also meal prep for her. I make all her food and stuff, and for her and her kids. because
one
it's
act of obedience.
Yep.
Led to.
Yeah, she said that literally nobody was there for her. She said only I was there for her, the Jesus freak neighbor, and one of her nannies who felt so bad for her that she just would help and wasn't charging her at the time. But no one else was there for her. No family members. No one. She truly has nobody. I mean, everyone has turned against her, and just a bunch of fake people and users and everything else. So it's I love being able to show her love that she has never received before, and it increased her faith as well because she always believed in God. But the thing is, when you go through that much and you don't have the right support system and you're surrounded by demons, and it's very easy to slip into the why would God do this to me mode instead of why is God doing this for me mode. That's a completely different mindset.
It is.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
Because you can't have purpose without pain.
Exactly. And also it's like everything is always for us. Like if my ex-husband didn't have an affair, I didn't believe the affair because the girl was so ugly. She looked like a horse that I was just like, why her? Like, I just didn't get it. There were so many better options in New York City, And so I questioned, even though my instinct told me it was happening, I questioned myself and for like 6 months, and then it was confirmed. But I'm so grateful he had that affair because if he hadn't had that affair, I would still be potentially unhappily married in New York City to the wrong man, and I wouldn't have Zoe. I wouldn't have this beautiful home. I wouldn't have my advocacy. I wouldn't have any of the things that are near and dear to my heart, other than Jesus himself. But one of the fundamental mistakes I made in marrying him. Well, first of all, I knew the second I met him he was a weirdo, but I was in New York City and I was single and I was sick of being single. I wanted a boyfriend, a routine. I was, sick of dating and all that stuff. So he was in the right place at the right time when we met, but I knew something was off about him, but he was agnostic. Now, if I met him now, I wouldn't even give him the time of day. But the second I would find out someone's agnostic or atheist, you can't sit next to me. Like, I could deliver you, but I'm not going to date you. But no marriage can survive without Jesus in the center.
Come on. It's true.
Period. I never would have married him. Like, there's no way. But I felt bad for him because his mom died when he was 19. His dad was like a homeless, drug, whatever. He had like this sad life, and I felt like I wanted to help him. That's what happened, basically. Yeah. Yes, and now I've learned how to kind of create parameters around my heart. And that's another reason why my advocacy is so important, because I help who God tells me to help, not everybody.
So key.
And it really is.
So key. Yeah, because it's so, when you're working within the anointing for the right person versus the wrong one.
Oh, yeah.
And when it's the wrong one, it don't even work.
No, it doesn't.
It feels so off. It's like, this just doesn't feel right at all.
Yeah, exactly.
All the things that click normally,
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't click, and it's like, okay, we gotta abandon this one.
Yeah, for me, it's if someone slips into that poor me victim mode, that's your sign. That's it. That's if I'll try for a little bit, but if they don't want to step out of that, it's a trap. It's literally a booby trap.
For sure.
And I like to empower people and help them heal and then guide them to the light, to the highest embodiment of themselves. And if you remain in this victim mode, that'll never happen.
Correct.
And so it's like, Jesus won't allow me to waste my time,
I've let go of assignments like that.
Yeah.
Where when the person starts arguing with you,
yeah,
about
exactly.
what God's trying to
exactly.
take them,
Exactly. I'm like, okay, well, you're on your own now.
I'll step back.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's always interesting to see what happens when stepping back takes place. Because it's like, then they just continue to regress, or they just stay still, but they're not going to move forward.
Correct.
Because it's like, here, Jesus sent you a lifeboat, and then you didn't want to get on the lifeboat.
Oh my goodness. Story of my life.
Yeah, literally, me too.
Story of my life. There are people that they wanted to work with me a year ago. A year goes by. They message me again, and they're like, "It's time to work. It's time." I'm like, "Great." Crickets.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, it's it's the as I tell everyone that I guide, we are the lowest common denominator in our own suffering. So we cannot dictate what this person does or that person does. We cannot determine what the weather is going to be tomorrow. But we can take responsibility for our behavior in different situations. So for me, for example, because my brother used to torment me when I was a child, I grew to be very defensive because I always had to be like quick on my toes, like I'm the queen of sarcasm as a result of my childhood because it was all boys and me. And so, and the men in my family are like chauvinistic, racist pigs. and so I had to be like really quick witted and just, but that has, a lot of negative attributes of being defensive, into my 20s and 30s. Like then I healed it, thank God. But I own that, right? And so it's like every single time a scenario takes place and I don't like how it went, like I'm gonna grab that mirror and I'm gonna look at, okay, what'd you do? Okay, well, you did go a little crazy, Kelly, or you did this, you did that, because that's the only thing that I can modify next time, right? But what most people do, and going back to the two women I was referencing, that are the victims, they never want to look at themselves. They just want to look at everything else. And that's so disempowering because we can't do anything about that. Those people are going to be those people.
Yeah, they're giving their power away.
Yeah, they're literally giving their power away. And the second that you take ownership and do shadow work, and you can acknowledge your shadow and value those parts, like that's when they heal, right? Because it's like all the shame and all those negative low frequency emotions, they get stored in your body and then they just stay there until you release them. And you can't release them if you just pretend they're not there. And you're like, well, but Joshua, but you said you were gonna and you didn't. Like, how's that gonna help me?
It is so real how much it actually is stored. Like I remember there's this lady, she popped onto one of my lives and I was telling people to put in the comments like, what are you struggling with? And she put in the comment shame. And I just said to her, I said, look at me. And I called the shame out and I told it to leave her. I found out later on, she said 24 hours later, she said that this big pus ball formed in the back of her head and it was literally leaking pus.
Wow.
So like the shame was like,
it was like a big boil.
It was stored in her body physically.
Wow.
Not just spiritually.
That's crazy.
And it leaked out of her. And then that just instigated an entire deliverance that happened.
That's amazing.
Long after, it was.
Yeah. Every single cancer, every autoimmune disease, everything is a result of stored emotions.
Yeah. Like
everything. And there's a natural cure for everything. Of course, the pharmaceutical industry doesn't want us to know that though. And so, but if people don't realize that it's just the importance of moving their bodies, for me, I just dance with the angels around the house and I stay in great shape that way. And I'm moving the emotions constantly. It's just literally all you're doing is if you think of it like a river, you just have to keep them flowing out. So they flow out. It's like flushing a toilet, get out of here. And if you don't do that, you're going to gain weight. Even if you're eating healthy, the cortisol damage is extreme, especially with narc abuse and stuff. I know firsthand. It's I would eat extremely healthy and then be inflamed, and so it's all you have to do is release it. But people, if you're staying in this victim mode, you can't release it because you're literally stressing yourself out by staying in that state.
Correct. Correct.
It's oh no, what am I gonna do? Why did God do this to me? It's no, what is He trying to teach you right now? He wants you out of this relationship, and. So often what happens is if you're in an unhealthy relationship and God has these blessings that he has for you stored in a vault, if this person that you're with, if he doesn't want you with that person, he's going to delay your blessings. They're going to stay in that vault until you get away from that person. And then once you get away from that person, then the vault opens or the dam breaks and then you get the blessings. So it's in order for to get to that door, like all this other stuff has to happen first. So that's why patience is so important too, because it's like, think of how much God is orchestrating behind the scenes, all these different players and pawns on the chessboard and everything else in order to achieve whatever goals is in place.
Yeah.
So a lot has to be done. There's so many moving parts. Like, look at just all the demons operating through different people at one time.
Oh my goodness.
It's literally spiritual warfare at all times.
Yeah. Case in point, if you're listening to this and demons seem to be coming out of every corner, take that as a positive, not a negative. It
Exactly.
means you're closer
Exactly.
to where
It's a
God
compliment.
wants to take.
It's like, because they wouldn't be there if you weren't a threat.
Correct.
Right? It's like
Correct.
you're doing something right. If they why would they show up to the party if you're already cool with each other?
Correct.
You know,
Yeah.
They want to crash the party because you're a threat. I deal with that stuff all the time, and I can see it from a mile away. So I love obstacles because I'm like, oh, okay, a big blessing's coming. I'm going to get through this, just like with the pimping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's how I want to wrap this. I feel like there's somebody that's going to listen to this, and they are going to be that person that needs like that stern talking to. Kelly, what would you say to somebody watching right now that they need to be sat down and told, like, this is what it takes to choose faith over fear?
Okay, well, there's a couple things that I do. First of all, I always say, trust God, okay? But also look back at your life. This is something I do with a lot of the people I advocate for. Look back at your life and write down or journal all the times that God showed up for you. And when it enables you to reframe your perspective in such a way that you're able to look at these different experiences as things that God did for you. Yeah. So, got you out of this divorce. Let's say you're engaged and then your fiance cheats on you. Well, that's actually divine protection because you were going to marry that person. So God saved you.
Reframing.
Yeah, reframe. The reframe is a game changer. So for me, I reframe everything because every door that I wouldn't have designed myself, life, right?
Yeah.
Every single door that God designs leads me to the next door, which leads me ultimately to another blessing. Because every single lesson is a blessing, right?
Yes.
Because if you learn something, then it was worth it.
Correct.
For me, it's like I always say, if life were perfect, and then why would we be here? We'd be born and everything's just perfect. Oh, nothing to learn. Like, why? Then don't take me back to heaven. I don't want to be here. There would be no point of living. Life is all about lessons and one of my favorite quotes is, life is all about creating memories and solving problems. You're always doing one or the other. But in the context of like perspective, it's like half glass full, half glass empty. Like my glass is always overflowing because I always look at things from a positive perspective, even if it's negative in the moment. There's a reason that is happening.
I like how you just did that. You just took that whole concept and you're like, nah, we're gonna do something completely different.
Yeah.
It's not even half full. It's not even half. It's neither of those. It's overflowing.
Yes, exactly. and it truly is when you actually look at, and the thing is, like, in order to become great, right? Like in order to become great, a legend, that person had to endure and overcome so much pain to get there. Like I did a TED Talk in 2013 when I had my sports bra company called Body Rock Sport, and it was about just keep going, and I was saying, like, embrace no. Like no's a blessing, because if someone tells me no, then that's not meant for me, and then I'll ultimately get to what's yes for me, right? Correct. And also at the beginning, I was like, everyone thinks I'm crazy, not in a straight jacket kind of way, but in a I'm a different type of way. In order to achieve greatness, you have to think you have to be crazy, right? Like you have to think you're the best because Jesus tells us we're the best, right? And that's not being arrogant if you're confident. That's being radically authentic.
That's humbling yourself before God, because God didn't create trash, and we constantly reframe our identity in a negative way, which is actually an insult to God.
Exactly.
Because we are made in His
Exactly,
image.
it's very disrespectful to God. what I say to one of the girls that the assignment I just had to leave, the September 2nd girl, I say, Jesus is often in my backyard in the chandelier, and so she was here for a week in July of 2024. I had her staying with me, and so we do these soul alchemy treatments in my pool, and there's like angels in the sky. It's really beautiful. It looks like fireworks coming down, and it's so cool with like hearts and stuff. And so I'm, telling her to, walk me through different experiences in her life to where she, God showed up for her. So she's starting to, list all these different things. And I'm like, okay, so then I start yelling at her. And I'm like, okay, just like Jesus would, he's not going to be like, okay, so now, So, okay, so then what is your problem? Why, if he walked you through all these different precarious journeys, why would you not trust him now? He showed up for you this time. So if you were God, wouldn't you be pissed? I'd be pissed. Like, what the hell? I show up for you every single time and you still don't trust me? What the heck is wrong with you, sweetheart? Like, get it together, right? That's what I would say if I were Jesus. Like, I'm always there for you. And like, how could you not trust me yet? Like, God would be pissed. I'd be pissed.
Yeah.
It's like it's offensive. It's like, I mean, not offensive. I don't like that word. It's disrespectful.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I'm always right here. Every time you call on me, I'm right here. Good or bad, ugly or beautiful. I'm always here. And I've shown you that through all the pain you've endured. I've always walked you through it, through every valley and every peak. Here I am. And then you still don't believe in me?
Wow.
I mean, that's like...
That's a game.
That's so sad. That's like when you think of like being in a relationship to where no matter how much you do for your significant other, they still don't trust you because of their own insecurities. And it's like, that's painful. I've experienced that before. Like, I'm an extremely loyal woman. And so it's like when all these insecurities are getting projected on you, it's just like, it doesn't matter what I do. He's still not going to see that I love him. That's, I think how Jesus feels a lot of the time. I do everything for this person, and she still doesn't. You can't trust someone if you don't love them, and vice versa. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And so without trust, you cannot love, and without love, you cannot trust. And so it's like, I think Jesus is so disappointed most of the time because most people don't truly trust him. And they don't truly love themselves. And if you don't truly love yourself, that's disrespectful to him, which is why, as part of my advocacy, like self-care and self-love and, style is such an important aspect of it, because it's ritualizing self-care. It's ceremonial. Mm-hmm. And it's like putting on, makeup and some, outfits that reflect your personal style. That's not vain. That's actually like honoring your body, right?
Yes.
And therefore honoring Jesus, and he loves that, right?
Yes.
So it's every single category in taking your food, nutrition, going outside, fitness, like all the different things, that all those factors matter.
Yeah.
They all matter because that's how he designed us. It's like an engine that runs on nitro versus, some old beat up car that, runs on diesel and can putt, you can barely go. That's the difference when you love yourself the way God wants you to love yourself, and therefore showing that you honor him.
Yeah.
Versus just like running on fumes. And when you think of running on fumes, it's like all these like indolent, slothy people that are like sitting like this, and they're like eating crap, and they're watching TV constantly, and they're very disrespectful to their family members, significant others, friends. They hate work. They're always complaining. They can never look at the positive. That's like most of the world when you think about it.
Oh yeah.
Which is really sad. Yeah. I can't stand complainers. It's like, get away from me, please.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something to be grateful for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. Kelly, this is special.
Indeed.
I thank you, and amazing, like to do this in your home. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful opportunity. I'm grateful.
I am too.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. And thank y'all for listening. We'll see you on the replay and on the next live. But thanks for hanging out with us. And I pray that this conversation has opened your heart up to receive words from the Lord that will inspire faith, that will completely mute fear in your life.
I always say, faith it till you make it.
I like that. I don't think I've ever heard that before. That's
Rather than fake it till you make it, faith it till you make
That's
it.
a bar.
Right? I know. I got bars.
Faith it till you.
My rap name's Lil Kells, okay?
I like that. I like it. Wow. That's a wrap. My goodness.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Faith it till you make it. Man. That was powerful.
Yeah, that was great. That was fun.
Hola, hola, hola. People from like India.
Nice.
Hola. Okay.
India, and you just helped the Indian, the Lyft driver.
Yeah.